As another high-profile cop killing of an unarmed black man is about to happen in Minneapolis, legal analyst Debbie Hines reminds us that the whole system needs to be revamped. Check it out, leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. On the line with us is Debbie Hines. We haven't talked to Debbie in quite a while, and I'm so glad to have her back. She's a trial lawyer, legal and political commentator, former prosecutor. In fact, she served as the Assistant Attorney General for the state of Maryland earlier in her career. Her website is IamDebbieHines, DebbieHines.com, and her Twitter handle is also IamDebbieHines. And hello, Debbie. Welcome back.
Hey, Tom. Long time no speak. It's great being back.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm wondering if we've got some latency here. If we do, I'll check it out while we're talking. Tell us about what's the latest in the Derek Chauvin trial, the police officer who murdered George Floyd, and also, you wrote a piece or this blog post. Derek Chauvin defense versus justice for George Floyd, worded another way, the innocence of whiteness justification, essentially. Tell us about the details of the trial and also this perspective that you're bringing to this.
So here's the thing, Tom. The trial is going to start on Monday. It's going to start with jury selection. They actually have a jury that's already been seated. We know a little bit about the jury. It's so far it's 12 men and women, and it's 3 alternates. It looks like it's fairly diverse. At the end of the day, right now, we actually don't know what's the racial makeup of the actual 12 jurors that are going to hear the case, although it's the whole 15 is a diverse group. But, here's the thing. This case is something that just about everyone has seen the video of. I mean, one of the jurors, there's only one juror that said he or she had not seen the video. But everybody has seen the video of Mr. Floyd being pinned down for 8 minutes and 46 seconds as he screamed out 30 times that he couldn't breathe. And so on the one hand, when you're looking at it that way, you would think like, oh, well, they just have to go through the formalities. We live in a world where we do have a justice system and someone has to be brought before trial and the jury has to hear the evidence and convict them, but this should be really a slam dunk case for the prosecution. But at the end of the day, it really is not, and that's because of a lot of different intricate issues, and primarily the issue of race and whiteness in America, that it's not going to be that easy for the prosecution to get a conviction. So Derek Chauvin is charged with second-degree and third-degree murder and manslaughter. And in my piece that I wrote, I still disagree, and I really feel that he should have been charged with first-degree murder. I understand that the prosecutor not that they did not feel that necessarily that the facts justified it, but I think they felt that they would not be able to get a conviction on first-degree murder. But really, as a former prosecutor, if this is not a case of first-degree murder, which carries a maximum penalty of life in prison, there really isn't any case. I mean, most prosecutors have gotten, most first-degree murder cases where it's a shooting and the person shoots at someone 8 times, because we say each and every time that you pulled the trigger, that was your building and making your intent. And so what's going to be argued is by the defense. And this is an interesting argument, and even though it seems maybe ludicrous to those that are viewing or listening in, it could resonate with white people or white jurors. They're saying that, well, Mr. Floyd, when you look at the autopsy report, because that's what the case hinges on, we're looking at the autopsy report, and they're saying that, well, Mr. Floyd did not die as a result of what Derek Chauvin did, okay? That he died because he had heart issues and, he had other issues. He was COVID-19 positive at the time. He was a sickle cell trait. He has all these other things going on in his body, and that's really what caused him to die. The reason why they're saying that is because the state medical examiner's report basically says that, unlike what we saw on the video, that Mr. Floyd did not die by strangulation, by being choked to death, but he died as a result of his heart just giving out on him, and then the other factors of being strangled are contributing significant factors involved. That's certainly not what the independent medical examiner found, but that's not going to be the one that's presented by the prosecutor. The independent medical examiner found that Mr. Floyd died as a result of strangulation. So what the defense is going to argue for the white police officer is basically that Mr. Floyd was the one who was guilty of anything, that he had a prior arrest back in 2009, which the judge is going to allow in. And in that prior arrest, it was a drug arrest. And so they're just going to try to paint a very negative picture of Mr. Floyd and to basically say that, well, he had drugs in his system, he was a drug addict, and all of these other things could have killed him. But I want the jury to basically come in there, as every jury is instructed to, with your own common sense. And so for them to say, defense to just use their defense and say what they're saying, it basically means that if this were back in the day in the not-so-distant past, if this was a lynching, an actual hanging of a black man, and the white defendant, if there were ever such one on trial, would say, oh, he didn't die because he was hanged to death from the tree. He really died because he was overweight, he had diabetes, he had heart conditions, and he had everything else in the world. That's really their defense. But it boils down to, who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe the video and what you saw happen, or are you going to believe the white man and give him the benefit of the doubt?
Yeah, we've come a long way since 1955 when, after Emmett Till was brutally murdered by two white men down in Mississippi, they held a trial, and in 1 hour the jury returned a not guilty verdict on these two white men, and one of the jurors said, we would have done it a lot earlier if we hadn't taken a break to have a soda. I mean, that was justice in 1955 for white people who killed black people. It seems like we've come a long way, but this racialized these racialized killings, I'm lacking a word here, Debbie. Maybe you could fill it in. Are still happening. I really honestly don't believe that even Derek Chauvin, even if he's, some sort of homicidal maniac, would have done this to a white guy, particularly a white guy who was well dressed. I can't even imagine it would have happened. And it's like, when do we reach the point, and we have about a minute and a half left here, Debbie, before we're going to hit a hard break. When and how does America reach the point where justice is based on the crime, not the victim of the crime?
Well, that's the question we've been asking for the last over 400 years. When does that happen? When is it a time that black people in America can get justice, not just in the case of police killings, but within the entire criminal justice system? When does that happen? And I don't really see it. I see it a little different. I don't see it as things have changed really that much, because if you look at 30 years ago, that was the Rodney King case. That was the first case that was allegedly on video by a bystander. And although Mr. King did not die, he was brutally beaten to death. And in the first trial against those four police officers, they found those white officers not guilty for a beating that took 12 minutes, almost really longer than George Floyd. So, when you look at the things that have happened, it's not like in the 50s. It didn't change that much with Rodney King, and we saw Eric Garner die on the video too, and they didn't even bring charges with respect to him. So I'm kind of beg to differ that I don't really see things as being changed. I think they're different in how, many white people are going about it, particularly white police officers, but I don't really see it being that much of a change, sadly.
So we have 30 seconds. What do we do to bring about that change, Debbie?
We have to change the system, and we don't have much time in 30 seconds, but we have to overhaul the entire system. We cannot give police officers a pass. We cannot, in the civil system, give them qualified immunity, so if they don't go to jail, they don't even suffer not a penny out of their pocket. The entire system has to be changed. I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. Debbie, thank you for dropping by. It's always great talking with you. Debbie Hines. Same here. My pleasure. I am Debbie Hines, DebbieHines.com is Debbie's website, and it's also her Twitter handle. I am Debbie Hines.